Krishna, Hare
Practice by offering the movement of the outgoing breath into the incoming and the incoming breath into the outgoing, and thus at last remain in trance, stopping all breathing. Others, curtailing the eating process, offer the outgoing breath into itself as a sacrifice. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. This system of yoga for controlling the breathing process is called pranayama, and in the beginning it is practiced in the Hatha Yoga system through different sitting postures. All of these processes are recommended for controlling the senses and for advancement in spiritual realization. This practice involves controlling the airs within the body so as to reverse the directions of their passage. The apana air goes downward and the prana air goes up. The pranayama yogi practices breathing the opposite way until the currents are neutralized into puraka, equilibrium. Offering the exalted breath into the inhaled breath is called richaka. When both air currents are completely stopped, one is said to be in kumbhaka yoga. By practice of kumbhaka yoga, one can increase the duration of life for perfection in spiritual realization. The intelligent yogi is interested in attaining perfection in one life without waiting for the next. For by practicing kumbhaka yoga, the yogis increase the duration of life by many years. A Krishna conscious person, however, being always situated in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, automatically becomes the controller of the senses, his senses being always engaged in the service of Krishna, have no chance of becoming otherwise engaged. So at the end of life, he is naturally transferred to the transcendental plane of Lord Krishna. Consequently, he makes no attempt to increase his longevity. He is at once raised to the platform of liberation as stated in Bhagavad Gita 14.26. Mam cha yo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samati yatyan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. One who engages in unalloyed devotional service to the Lord transcends the modes of material nature and is immediately elevated to the spiritual platform. A Krishna conscious person begins from the transcendental stage and he is constantly in that consciousness. Therefore, there is no falling down and ultimately he enters into the abode of the Lord without delay. The practice of reduced eating is automatically done when one eats only Krishna prasadam or food which is offered first to the Lord. Reducing the eating process is very helpful in the matter of sense control. And without sense control, there is no possibility of getting out of the material entanglement. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him and to all the members of the Guru Parampara. Vanchakalpa Tirubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Paditana Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord who are just like desired trees, fulfilling the desires of everyone and are full of compassion for the fallen, conditioned souls. Hare Krishna. Again, on behalf of ISKCON Scarborough, I would like to welcome each one of you to this Sunday morning program. We are reading from page 216 from the 4th chapter titled Transcendental Knowledge, and the verse that we are reading today is 29, and we are continuing with where Maharaj left off last Sunday when he was here, when he narrated this 28th verse of the 4th chapter. And there was a wonderful class last Sunday for those of you who are here. So the translation of this particular verse, 29th verse of the 4th chapter, is still others who are inclined to the process of breath restraint to remain in trance, practice by offering the movement of the outgoing breath into the incoming and the incoming breath into the outgoing, and thus at last remain in trance, stopping all breathing. Others, curtailing the eating process, offer the outgoing breath into itself as a sacrifice. So here, this is a continuation from the 26th verse of this 4th chapter that we read in the last few weeks. So actually it's even one verse earlier, 25th verse. If you can turn to the 25th verse. So we'll quickly summarize that before we proceed further. So the English translation alone, the 25th verse is, some yogis perfectly worship the demigods by offering different sacrifices to them, and some offer sacrifices in the fire of the supreme Brahman. So here I have a small chart, if you can take a look at it after the class, because when you read this, it seemed to be slightly confusing, but it is not. So it's nicely depicted here for all of you to see later on, and you'll be able to comprehend this verse 25, 26, 27 very easily, based on if we think that this is like a fire sacrifice. So in this particular verse, 25th verse, it says, some yogis perfectly worship the demigods by offering different sacrifices to them. So I've split that into two based on the teachings of Bhakti Rasamrita Maharaj. So the first one is the performer or contributor of fire sacrifice. So in this case, it's the demigod worshipper, if you read this verse again, and who believes in many gods with a small g. And the second one is actual offering contribution. What does he offer in sacrifice? Just like a ghee or grains, etc. that you put into the fire. So in this 25th verse, what is he offering? Sacrifices material possession like money and gold and cows and dakshina for priests. So all that is the actual offering from this particular verse. And what is the consuming agent? Like the fire. When we do a fire sacrifice, the consuming agent is fire. So to whom he offers into what? So it is to the demigods. And the instrument of offering, it's the ladle that we call, through which you offer. The process of offering is Karma Kanda section of the Vedas and the other rituals. And the result, what is the intended goal? So if you read this verse, it says material enjoyment. However, the Karma Kandi can be promoted to Karma Yogi, then move to higher Nishkarma Yogi by making gradual advancement. So when we read that purport of the 25th verse. So the 26th verse is some unadulterated brahmacharis sacrifice the hearing process and the senses in the fire of mental control, and others, the regulated householders, sacrifice the objects of the senses in the fire of the senses. So again, it may look a little bit confusing, but if you go through this chart, you'll be able to comprehend it very well. Just you have to imagine that you're offering fire sacrifice. So you take some ghee, you chant some mantras, and you offer it to the fire with some intended result. So when you keep that in your mind, you can very easily understand the verses 25, 26, 27, and it goes on up to the current verse that we are reading. So we can take a look at it a little later.
Pretty good, you know.
So you can, yeah.
Oh, thank you.
So coming back to today's verse, which is the 29th verse, you can also continue by putting a chart like this for other verses as well, including 29th. I put it up to, I think, 27th verse. So the same strategy will work for us to understand how these verses line up and how we can comprehend it very easily. So here in this particular verse, you can see twice the word Juvati is mentioned by Lord Krishna. So Juvati means it's like sacrifice or offering.
Okay.
So that is the meaning of Juvati. And And the verse is starting off with still others, because it's continuing from this 25th verse of the 4th chapter, one by one. What does the brahmachari do? What does the householder do? So different types of sacrifices that are done by different groups of people are mentioned. And here the verse and the purport is indicating about pranayama. So pranayama is mentioned here. This is one way to control the mind and the senses by controlling the breathing process. So for those of you who may have had some experience with pranayama, here Lord Krishna is explaining about kumbhaka. Kumbhaka means the breath retention. So one is puraka and then richaka. So when you take a deep breath and you hold it, and you exhale through the other nostril, and then you do it in the opposite way. So that is what it is said here, that the movement of the outgoing breath into the incoming and the incoming breath into the outgoing.
What is called?
It is called Kumbhaka Yoga.
Kumbhaka.
So pranayama has got three components to it. One is richaka, one is puraka, and then the third one is kumbhaka. So when you inhale, so some of you, as I said, may have already practiced this. It's very good. It's very calming to the mind and senses, especially if you are not falling asleep in the night for various reasons. You do this, you'll fall asleep for sure. Even a simple process of taking a deep breath through both the nostrils and hold it there and then exhale it. You do that 3 or 4 times, you will fall asleep. And the reason is, we always don't take a deep breath when we are running around trying to do more and more with less and less. So we don't take a deep breath. When you do that, when you're not falling asleep, hold it there, and then when you exhale, do this few times, you will fall asleep. So you can try that when you're not getting sleep. Simple process. It doesn't hurt. There is no unintended consequence in this.
This is kumbhaka.
This is kumbhaka is when you hold the breath.
Yes.
So it is said in Prabhupada's purport, and it is also said elsewhere in the pranayama world where they practice, that the longer you hold your breath, so you take a deep breath and you hold it. If you hold it for 1 minute, then you live 1 minute longer. So again, in this purport, Prabhupada is explaining that by practicing Kumbhaka Yoga, the yogis increase the duration of life by many, many years. So Prabhupada is mentioning, and also in the pranayama world, they say if you hold the breath for longer, that's the time that you live longer as well. But again, the intent of this pranayama is, so it does so in a temporary way, but there is always a risk of falling down. Because here, Prabhupada in the end is saying, and without sense control, there is no possibility of getting out of the material entanglement. So that's the key in this particular verse. So somebody can actually hold the breath for a longer period of time, not just 1 minute. So if we can hold the breath and chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra for maybe chant 2 Hare Krishna Mahamantras by holding the breath, that itself is quite an achievement. But there are yogis who hold the breath for an extended period of time, and it is said the longer they hold it, longer they have this kumbhaka, then they live for that extended period of time as well.
Excuse me, if we hold the breath, okay, but how can we chant?
So in the mind. In the mind, or you can even chant, so I'm not breathing Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. I didn't breathe. But anyway, now coming back to the Bhakti Yoga practitioners like us who are still in the sadhaka platform, how can we use this pranayama? So I would like to read something from this wonderful book. It's called Art of Chanting Hare Krishna by Mahanidhi Swami. He's Prabhupada's disciple.
Yes.
He lives in Radhakund. So I would like to recite something from here which is fascinating as to how we can use pranayama as well. So pranayama in a nutshell is you take a deep breath by closing your other nostril. So close your right nostril with your thumb and then inhale through the left nostril alone. And then you hold both the nostrils together and hold the breath there for a period of time. So if you're really into that, you will get to know that when you go to internet, there's a lot of information there. And then you hold the other nostril and then exhale through the other nose. And then you close the left nostril, take in through the right nostril, hold both the nostrils together, have the retention of air, and then exhale through the other nostril. Yes, bro.
On a side note, the last time I spoke to Chandra Muni Maharaj, he actually does this same process before he chants his rounds in the morning, just to calm down the mind.
That's a good point, because
he actually highly recommends that.
So,
last time I spoke to him.
Thank you. That's what exactly we are going to read here, because this book is a fascinating book. If you don't have this book, I would strongly recommend to get this ASAP from Krishna.com or any other source. So here, Mahanidhi Swami is giving us 8 rules for better japa. How can we give up rice or eating heavy foods, take simple foods like milk and fruits, and he goes on with that. The second one is time, place, mind. Start chanting very early in the morning, and then he also says that you start off with this pranayama because it calms your mind so well. And the chanting techniques, if one of the Prabhupada's CDs, sit properly. Have you heard that CD? So there is a reason, because in Bhagavad Gita also it is said for us to meditate properly, we have to sit with the back, neck and head straight. We can't chant like this. So it has to be straight. That is part of Bhagavad Gita as well. And then be careful to clearly and distinctly pronounce the holy names. Concentration, all thoughts into one. Concentrate on the sound vibration. Control the mind. Pull it back when it wanders. So that's the instruction that Lord Krishna also gives us. And cut the tendency to recall events from yesterday. Forget about what has happened. Forget about this recalling process. And don't plan today's duties when you're chanting. And absorb 4 qualities. Try to fill the mind with 4 qualities recommended in the 3rd verse of Sikshashtaka, which is humility, tolerance, pridelessness, and respect to all. Anybody remembers this verse? Trinada Pisuni Chevas, Taroriva Saishtuna, that verse. And then meditation. While chanting, meditate on the forms, if you can, and then mood. Chant with the feeling of longing for Krishna. So those are the 8 techniques that Mahanidhi Swami is giving us, and one is pranayama before we chant, because it will calm your mind and senses. And Mahanidhi Swami is also giving us another 8 hints from Sridhar Dasa's 8 steps for better japa. So the first one is establish a disturbance-free environment for intensified chanting. The second one is keep your eyes closed, and if need be, wear a cloth around the head so that it doesn't go here and there, like you have for a horse, they put this blinder so you don't get distracted. And then sit firmly and fix the mind by the mechanical process of pranayama. So again here, pranayama is suggested before chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, so that the mind is calm. And then the 4th one is clearly understand the sense perceptual process, and then learn to negate and turn off all sensory stimuli except the hearing. That is, touch, hear and see, forget all that, just hearing. And then the 5th technique is enter into the 4 stages mentioned in the Trinada Pisunichina verse. Again, humility, tolerance, pridelessness, respecting all. 6 is while chanting, always remember the mantra is a personal address to Radha and Krishna. It's not a parrot's vibrato. It's not like a tape recorder playing. It's a personal address to Radha and Krishna. And then the 7th tip is while chanting, repeatedly fill the mind with the wonderful meanings of the holy name given by the previous acharyas. And 8th is expect exalted experiences and spiritual realization by this most powerful and sublime sound vibration. So expect it. So again, in both these techniques, it is said pranayama is one of the integral part. So we can use pranayama for better chanting. Again, this is the book, Art of Chanting Hare Krishna, by His Holiness Mahanidhi Swami, who lives in Radhakund in Vrindavan.
I think I've got it.
Got it? So again, for those of you who joined us late, we are reading from the 29th verse of the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And here, Lord Krishna is instructing about pranayama, and Prabhupada is also explaining in his purport about the pranayama and what it does to us. Mainly it is to control our mind and senses, but we'll also have to be careful if through pranayama, if you are unable to control the mind and senses, then there is no possibility of getting out of this material entanglement. So, very, very relevant to this particular verse that we are reading today and to the purport of Srila Prabhupada, there is a fascinating pastime that I would like to narrate from Srimad Bhagavatam, again very relevant to the verse and the purport that we are reading. So this is from the ninth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the 6th chapter. The title of this chapter is Downfall of Saubhari Muni. So many of you or some of you would have heard this fascinating pastime, but because this is extremely relevant to this verse that we are reading, because he controlled his mind and senses for a short period of time, which is many years compared to what we can control, and he was practicing this pranayama and he was able to control his breath very easily. But it's very instruction that we read from Srimad Bhagavatam from this pastime of Saubhari muni. So with your permission, I would like to narrate this pastime.
Please.
So again, as I mentioned, this is from the 6th chapter of the 9th canto, and I'm giving the reference because you can go and refer to this, because I want you to read this fascinating pastime. So this Saubhari muni is a mystic yogi, and he was meditating deep inside the Yamuna river in Vrindavan. So it was not that he was meditating on the banks of river Yamuna in Vrindavan, but he was meditating deep inside Yamuna river in Vrindavan. Now, why did he do it? Let's see why he did it and how he did it. So why did he go deep inside Yamuna river? One is he wanted to meditate when there is absolutely no disturbance. Because when we are chanting at home, we see, somebody's ringing the doorbell, there's a phone call coming, there is cell phone ringing. It's part of life in Kali Yuga. But this was in different Yuga. Even a minor disturbance would have caused him some disturbance. So he decided to go deep into the waters of Yamuna where there is no doorbell ringing, because there's no door. There is no cell phone there. No, he did not have cell phone. There's going to be no signal deep inside Yamuna river. So for peace and tranquility, he went deep inside Yamuna river. And the closest that we can get to that peace of watching fishes in front of us when we are chanting, which is not good, but if you want peace, there is an aquarium channel in TV. Any one of you have seen that? So there is a channel which is called as aquarium channel. You turn the channel on, all you see is live aquarium shot. There are fishes that are going here and there 24 hours a day. So it's called aquarium channel. So a glimpse of what Saubhari muni would have seen deep inside the water of Yamuna. There is also apparently a channel called as sunset channel. There's a live video taking the sunset that is going to take place. So this is happening 24 hours a day. If you're wondering how sunset happens, when they go to different places, they switch on the camera. So all the time you see is sunset with beautiful birds flying and trees moving in the wind. There is also a channel called as fireplace channel. So all you see is that there is a fireplace there. So I don't know how many people will be watching that, but apparently there are these channels. So Saubhari muni was deep inside this Yamuna river, meditating in this tranquil surroundings with no disturbance. Now the next question is, how is he able to do that? I'm not able to do that. We are unable to do that. We can't go deep inside the water and stay there without breathing. Yes, it's right. We cannot do that. But we should think in terms of living entities rather than thinking in terms of human beings. Yes, human beings, we cannot do it. But when you see, there are trillions and trillions of fishes inside the sea. There are thousands and thousands of fishes living inside the water. They're not suffocating. They're happily swimming. They've got family. They've got everything there. They are able to adapt to that circumstance and the situation and the surrounding because of the capability of their body. So they're capable of living inside the water and breathing very easily. What about earthworm? Earthworm lives few inches below the surface of earth. It's wet and dark. It knows where his wife is. The earthworm knows where the children are. It easily knows where the house of the earthworm is. There's no problem. It's able to adapt. There's no air at all beneath the surface of the ground. All of you have seen that, right? Earthworm happily lives beneath the surface of the earth. And it is also said, everybody knows about Surya Bhagavan. He's the king of Sun planet. Now, Sun planet is 93 million miles away, and it is proved by the scientists as well. And the core of the Sun is 16 million degree Celsius.
Oh.
So 16 million degrees Celsius, which is also justified with some hypothesis by the scientists. So 16 million degrees Celsius. Now, to put this in relative terms, when we have, in the height of summer, it's about 40 degrees. It's really hot. Now, if you expand that a little bit further, when the Twin Towers were hit on September 11th by the two aeroplanes, the temperature inside that was 1600 degrees Celsius, and that melted the steel rods. So 1600 degrees Celsius can melt the steel rod, and now we are talking about millions, 16 million degree Celsius we are talking about, which is the heat in the core of the sun. So if we go closer to the sun, we are all burnt to ashes. But we know that the presiding deity is the Surya Bhagavan. And have you ever heard about a king with nobody in the kingdom? So obviously, in the sun planet, if there is a king, there are people that he is ruling over. So there are living entities in the sun planet. And how are there living entities in the sun planet? They may have the same body as us, but we cannot term them as human being because they're exalted personalities and their body is adapted to living in this 16 million degrees Celsius. Like how the fish is adapted to living inside the water and happily living there. We can again think of it in this way. Firefighters, we cannot go into a house that is burning. But if you see the firefighters, they wear some heavy duty clothing and equipment. They're able to run through the fires without getting affected as much as any one of us who can go with this dhurta and adhoti inside the fire. So if the body is adapted to the circumstance, then somebody can live inside the water. Somebody can live inside the ground like an earthworm, and somebody can even live in other planets, even sun planet. So here he's a mystic yoga. He performing or mastered all the 8 mystic yogic perfections, like anima. Anima means you can become smaller than an atom. Mahima, you can become much bigger than the biggest. Lahima is you become lighter than the lightest. Then he's mastered prapti. Prapti means you can get whatever you want. So that is one of the 8 mystic perfections. And Prabhupada explains about prapti in his lectures that when he was in his college, there was a teacher who had a master, and that master asked Prabhupada's teacher, what do you want to eat? And then the master said, the student said, I want to eat pomegranate from Kabul. Have you heard this before? So in one of the lectures, Prabhupada says, so they said, I want to eat pomegranate from Kabul. So this person who's perfected this mystic siddhis put his hand from Calcutta and he got the pomegranate from Kabul, and he said it's in the next room. And in the next room there was this pomegranate from Kabul fresh. So mystic perfection is possible. And Prabhupada also in one of the lectures he said it's like somebody leaving his eyeglasses in London, England, and then comes back to India the next day, and he realizes he left his glasses. So all he has to do is put his hand and get the glasses from there, so he doesn't need to travel. So that is one of the mystic perfections. It's called prapti. So anima, mahima, lagima, prapti. And then there are 4 more mystic perfections where they can destroy things, they can manufacture things instantaneously. So this is one of the perfections that Saubhari muni perfected, and he was able to meditate for many, many years inside Yamuna's water. Now, as he was perfecting this yogic process for thousands of years, something very, very interesting happened. So as he was meditating, he wanted to be away from all the distractions so that he does not get distracted, because there is padam yat vipadam na tesam. There is danger in every step in material life. Not only physical danger, but also the danger of falling down from our spiritual platform. So here something interesting happened. So when he was meditating deep inside the water of Yamuna, he saw two fishes mating with each other. So these two fishes were having this physical union, and the deep desire within him that was covered for many, many years when he was in the process of meditation manifested again. And he thought to himself, even the fishes are more fortunate than him because they are enjoying the sense gratification, but he is so unfortunate that he cannot enjoy the sense gratification deep in the waters of Yamuna. So he decided to come out of Yamuna. So the whole idea of him going inside the water was to get away from this distraction, and now he saw these two fishes, and then it manifested his desire that was deep within him, and he comes out of the water. When he comes out of this Yamuna water after many, many years, even we know that when we swim in a swimming pool for 2 or 3 hours, when we are inside the water for so many hours, the skin becomes so wrinkled. So here he comes out, and with his grey hair, he's got a lot of grey hair, and his head is shaking because he's really old and he's very feeble. And he comes and he talks to Mandata. Mandata was the king of Mathura at that time, because as you know, this happened inside Yamuna river where he was meditating, and Yamuna river is in Vrindavan. And this happened, and the king of Mathura at that time was a king called Mandata. Now Mandata and his wife Bindumati had 3 sons and 50 daughters. So the 3 sons, one of the son is Muchukunda. And this Muchukunda, fascinating pastime we read from the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam.
Yes.
In a nutshell, Muchukunda, he was the person who the demigods came, the commander-in-chief Kartikeya came from the higher planetary system, and he said, you, the king in the material world, please come and fight for us. Come and fight for the demigods. Come to our team and fight for us against the Asuras. So he was such a fascinating. Have you heard this before? Anybody from earth is called by the demigods to help the demigods to fight against the Asuras. So this Muchukunda was such a great personality. Kartikeya came and personally took Muruga, Lord Muruga, personally called him to fight for the demigods. It's in Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto. And then he goes and helps the demigods win that war, and then they give him a benediction. They ask him, what benediction you want? And he says, you know what? I want to sleep. I just want to sleep for many, many years. You could have asked for many more things, but he just asked to be peaceful and sleep because he never slept for many, many, many years. It's not that he's in the mode of ignorance, but it's just that he was fighting and he's so tired he wanted to sleep. And with his power of vision, he burnt Kalyavana. Kalyavana was one of the demoniac personalities. He just burnt him by just seeing him because he's got so much potency from the demigods that was given to him. And he was so fortunate because he saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face, Lord Krishna, and then offered wonderful prayers. So out of the 3 sons of Mandata, one was Muchukunda, and then there were 50 daughters of Mandata as well. So for Bindumati and for Mandata. So this Saubhari muni, in his feeble body, wrinkled body, grey hair, head is shaking, is many years old, and he comes and asks the king, can I marry one of your daughters?
Oh.
Now, the king is looking at this mystic yogi. He's a powerful mystic yogi, but he's seeing his physical condition, and he didn't want to say no right away because he's worried that he may curse him. The mystic yogi will curse him and he'll be in trouble. So he's becoming very diplomatic. He said, whatever my daughters decide, I will go with it. If they want to marry, I'm okay with it. So in an indirect way, the king had refused this, but not directly. So Saubhari muni thought, my physical condition is not good enough. None of these daughters, none of the 50 daughters will marry me. So let me go and get some new body. Because he's a mystic yogi, just like he can go and live underneath the Yamuna river for many, many years without breathing and eating and sleeping, it's not difficult for him to dramatically change his physical appearance. So powerful mantras,
Just like Durvasa Muni.
He chants powerful mantras, so he goes away for some time and then he comes back in this fascinating, effulgent, handsome form. So no more wrinkle, no more grey hair. Now this idea of Saubhari muni is there amongst all of us even today. All of us want to become younger if we can. We use hair dye. we use the cream that will keep the wrinkles away. Rhinoplasty is where you reshape your nose. Then we have liposuction, which takes off some extra flesh that need not be there.
In Bhagavatam,
Yayati also was there, yeah. And then facelifting. So we do all, to some extent this is also prevalent. But, our Maharajas tell us, somebody who's very old try to put dye, they're fooling themselves. They're not fooling others. Because everybody knows that they're so old and it is not natural black hair. Anyway, so this is prevalent now, but we cannot do it because we are not mystic yogis, though we may like to get younger and change our appearance. So here, because of his potency, he is able to get this young, effulgent body and he goes into the palace. And now all the 50 daughters of Mandata see him and they're extremely happy. Now they're fighting with each other. I want to marry him. I want to marry him. All the 50 daughters are fighting. And then Mandata had no choice but to marry all the 50 daughters to Saubhari muni. So he used his mystical potency for himself, for sense gratification, which is not right. Even from Bible we read, Jesus Christ used this mystic potency to revive somebody who is dead, to cure a sick person like a leper.
Yes.
So he did all that to elevate the consciousness of that person. He used the mystical potency to elevate the consciousness of the person. But here Saubhari muni used his mystic potency for sense gratification. He wanted to become younger. So he got married to these 50 daughters of Mandata, and he led a glorious sense gratificatory life. So it's not that he became young alone. What he did was, using his mantras, he was able to manifest amazing, breathtaking palaces. So there were palaces manifested instantaneously. There are beautiful gardens, lakes, wonderful, colorful birds. It's all mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam. Mystically it appeared. So opulent. Inside the house there is all these marble palaces, beds, and wonderful things are there. And his father-in-law, Saubhari muni's father-in-law is Mandata, and he's not just a king of a small province. He's not the king of the world. He was the king of Bharatvarsha at that time. 7 huge islands. Now, how much opulence Mandata should have? But he himself is like, he could not believe what he's seeing, that a muni can manifest all these material opulences that he himself could not get. The king of Bharatvarsha could not get, but here this old man who was, meditating underneath the Yamuna river is able to manifest all these glorious potencies. So Prabhupada in his purport says there are 2 ways to get material opulence. One is by this mechanical means where we work hard and do all those things and get material opulence. But the second way is by subtle means. Subtle means is by these powerful mantras. Mystic yogis can manifest so much of wealth. So from each one of his wives, there were 100 children. So he had 5,000 children. And he had all the opulences. He was young, still young. So everything to live for as far as materialist is concerned. But one day he just realized that he's in a miserable condition. In spite of all these things, he wanted this, he came, he got this. But at that time he's feeling miserable. In spite of whatever I have, the palaces that even are not available in any one of the 7 islands, I feel miserable. He's so distressed, he's not in peace. And Prabhupada in his purport says, if you want peace, there's only one way. The famous verse from the 29th verse of the 5th chapter, Bhoktaram Yakkatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Sukrudum Sarva Bhutanam Gyatva Mam Shantim Richati. So here it is said, Supreme Personality of Godhead is the ultimate beneficiary of all the sacrifices and austerities. He is the Supreme Lord of all the planets and demigods. And he is the supreme well-wisher of all the living entities. When we are aware of this, then there is peace. So this is called as peace formula. So the sense gratification will not give us peace. So he is contemplating how. It's like a mirage. Prabhupada says it's like a mirage, that the sense gratification is like a mirage. Oh, that, if only I can get that and enjoy it, then I'll quit. I don't want any more enjoyment. But it's like mirage. We go there. there is no water there. Mirage, it looks like there is water so far away. And when we go there, there is no water. And then when you look there, there is another mirage there. There is mirage there. We go running from one place
This
to...
is the first shloka of Bhagavatam. No? First shloka.
1.1.
Yes, 1 point.
So we run here and there, thinking that if only we get that, we'll be so happy. If only we buy that house, we'll be $1 million house, we are so happy. When you get that $1 million house, if only I buy that house in Hawaii, near the mountain, that will be good. So it's never ending. We get what we want. Even when we get what we want, we are not too happy. I want that promotion as the managing director of the company. Then when we get that, after some time, it's too much of work, you don't like it. Or, what about the CEO? I want to become the CEO. That's never ending. There is always, we are chasing our shadow here. So here, he is dissatisfied in spite of getting everything, and he's contemplating. And then he realized, my fall down from the spiritual platform was because of bad association. So bad association is the fishes here. Now, he thought it's a safe place. So even a secured or secluded place, a secluded place is not secure unless there is good association. So I would like to repeat this again. Even a secluded place is not secure unless there is good association. So he thought it was a safe environment there, but it is not. So he thinks about this, and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his purport says, it is for another reason as well, not just for association. Bad association is one, for another purpose. He did a Vaishnava Aparad. So now we are in the 9th canto, 6th chapter, for us to know what was the Vaishnava Aparad that Saubhari muni did for him to fall down from the spiritual platform. We have to go to the 17th chapter of the 10th canto, where in the Kaliya pastime, so here, Garuda's natural food, he's the carrier of Lord Vishnu. His natural food is fish. So Saubhari muni assumed proprietorship over that Yamuna area, and all the fishes were under his safeguard, he thought. And he cursed Garuda, you should not come and eat any fish from here, and I curse you, if you come the next time, you will die. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur said it's a Vaishnava Aparad. Vaishnava Aparad is also called as mad elephant Aparad. Mad elephant offense means you can sow some seeds and these little plants come. And then what happens when an elephant comes? Mad elephant comes. He runs everywhere and he tramples all this seed of devotional service that we have by chanting and all those other austerities that we perform. We are growing in this embryonic stage in Krishna consciousness, but if we perform Vaishnava Aparad, when we offend a Vaishnava, like how we offended Garuda, then it's a mad elephant offense, where the elephant will trample over all the seed of devotional service that have been sown, and these small creepers are coming. So based on this, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says it's we have to be very, very cautious that we do not perform Vaishnava Aparad. And it is said association is very important. Sadhu Sangha Sarva Shastriyaye, Lava Matra Sadhu Sangha Sarva Siddhiyaye. Lava means even a moment's association. So according to the revealed scriptures, even a moment's association with an exalted devotee will guarantee all success. And similar prayer by Prachetas to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the 4th canto, where it is said, Tulayama Lavanapi, Na Swargam Na Punarbhavam, Bhagavad Sangi Sangasya. So here it is said, a moment's association with an exalted devotee cannot be compared to the elevation to the higher planetary system, nor to merging into the Brahman effulgence, because there's no comparison. And talking about association with great devotees, we have lined up a lot of devotees coming to ISKCON Scarborough. Next Friday we have Kratu Prabhu, His Grace Kratu Prabhu coming. So again, in line with what we are reading today, association with great personalities. Even a moment's association is so fortunate, it guarantees all success. So I know most of you or some of you may not come on other days, but we humbly request you to come on Friday to get the association of this exalted devotee who's coming all the way from Vrindavan. And also we have other exalted devotees coming on May, I think 18th, 19th, that Friday and Saturday. His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu is coming, and then His Rohini Priya Prabhu is coming. all the way from Chaupati, India. So great personalities are coming, and the verse that we are reading today and the pastime that we are hearing today, even a moment's association with these wonderful devotees will guarantee us all success. So here he is contemplating, Saubhari muni, that he is fallen down from this exalted position because of this bad association. We can go on and on about this association, how Ramananda Rai is answering the question of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is asking, what is the most painful distress for a living entity? Ramananda Rai is explaining that it is a separation from a devotee. That's the most distressful condition. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is asking again to Ramananda Rai, what is the greatest thing for a living entity? The greatest thing is associating with the devotee. And then we also read, we pray, Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha. So here, they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned soul. So association of devotees will keep us out of trouble. So it is the most important lesson from this particular pastime that we are reading today or hearing today. So at that point in time, he decides that he's leading a miserable life in this family with 50 wives and 5,000 children, because there are 100 children from each wife. And then he decides, he goes to forest to meditate on the Supreme Personality of Godhead to attain perfection in Bhakti Yoga. And all the 50 wives go with Saubhari muni, and all of them go back home, back to Godhead. Even though the wives were not practicing severe austerity, Prabhupada says, because they were chaste, because they were faithful to the husband and serving the husband, they get an opportunity to go back home, back to Godhead as well. Similar to Dhruva Maharaj. Because Dhruva Maharaj also was performing severe austerities, but his mother, Suniti, who was the guru of him, because initially she's the one who said, go to the forest and meditate on the Supreme Personality of God. Just by being a Siksha Guru, she also went in the aeroplane, because there was an aeroplane, Nanda and Sunanda had come to take Dhruva Maharaj. But he's thinking, how can I go alone when my mother is still going to be in the material world? And he's looking in another aeroplane, Suniti is also going back home, back to Godhead. So even if our family members are not able to do what all of you are doing, chanting and following the 4 regulative principles, but if they are helping all of us, they also get to be promoted to Goloka Vrindavan. So this is a wonderful pastime of Saubhari muni, very relevant to the verse that we are reading. So even if we practice pranayama by controlling our breath, it is temporary. If you are not into Bhakti Yoga, there is always a possibility of us falling down. So the lessons to be learned in the last 2 minutes, we have 2 more minutes. So the lessons to be learned from this Saubhari muni's pastime is that first is association of devotees. It's very important, and if you associate with non-devotees who are into sense gratification like the fishes that he saw, then we will fall down. Do not be complacent even in a very controlled environment. Even if we are in Vrindavan, there is a chance of us falling down if you are not careful, because spiritual life is like walking on a razor's edge. We have to be very, very careful. And the third one, do not offend a Vaishnava. Vaishnava Prad brought him down according to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. But how did he get this thought of going back to God consciousness and performing Bhakti Yoga? Was the association he had previously with Yamuna river and Vrindavan. That is why he had this thought later on, what am I doing here? I'm in this family life and wasted all my pious credits. And then he got back into Bhakti Yoga and then went back home, back to God. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanande, Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It was quite interesting.
Srimade Bhakti Vedanta Swami
Guru Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Jai Baladev, Jai Baladev, Jai Baladev, Jai निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि आनंद गौड़ी वैष्णव वृंद की जय निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि a big applause. Very first time.
Please see me. And we are also fascinated and excited to announce that we have finalized the 4th annual Harinam Sankirtan cruise. So this is the 4th time that we'll be going on Lake Ontario for about 5 hours, renting a ship exclusively for ISKCON Scarborough, so we will not have any outsider there. So it's a capacity of 300. It's the same ship that we have used in the last 4 years. I would say same ship, but it's the same company because we've had Yankee Lady 3 and 4 alternatively. So this time we are taking Yankee Lady 4, and the higher the number it means is the newest ship. So we are excited to announce that we'll be taking Yankee Lady 4 this 8th of June, which is a Saturday, starting from 12. So 12 to 5 will be the cruise in Lake Ontario, around the harbors and around the cities that are there in downtown. It's a fascinating view of downtown Toronto and the neighboring islands. So we'll be giving you wonderful prasadam as well as snacks through the course of this wonderful boat cruise. We're also happy to announce that on this day, His Grace Ajamal Prabhu has already confirmed that he is going to be in town. He'll be here just for that, as well as the Gaura Shakti Yoga group will be part of this program. So please pass this message to all your friends, relatives and other family members. If you've already been on this cruise at least once, you know how wonderful this cruise is. All of us deserve this break. It's a spiritual break where we get cleansed of all the anarthas of lust, anger, greed, envy, pride and illusion, where we do nothing but chant, hear and dance the holy name of the Lord during this cruise. And of course, what else can we ask for? There'll be wonderful prasadam and wonderful snacks that have already been offered to the Lord. So if you have not purchased your ticket, please book the ticket through one of our devotees here, Nitai Prabhu or Govindadas Prabhu or any one of us here, to book your ticket, because last couple of years ago, unfortunately, we had to send off 2 devotees because we could only accommodate 300 and there were 300. So please book your seats in advance. Hare Krishna. So now we will chant one round of
Saturday.
And also we are going to have a park program which is Rath Yatra for ISKCON Scarborough for the first time on September 7th. So if you're wondering what is this, it's not to the magnitude of what happens along Young Street, which is again going to happen, I think, July 13th this year, which will be the 41st annual Rath Yatra. But this is going to be a mini Rath Yatra for ISKCON Scarborough for the first time we are going to do, where we are going to take the deities of Jagannath, Baladev and Subhadra to Milliken Park, because there are a lot of people there who do not know that ISKCON Scarborough is here, nor ISKCON Toronto is there. And we are going to take the deities there so that they can get unlimited blessings of the deities when we take them to the park. And on that context, we'd like to thank Manmohan Prabhu for doing wonderful service in every possible way. He's made all these glass doors for all these bookshelves, as well as he does other services. And more importantly, he is in the process of making a card for the first annual Rath. So thank you again for all your efforts and contribution, Prabhu. We pray to the Lordship to grant pure devotional service to you and your family members. And that is next Saturday?
This coming Saturday.
Coming Saturday is also the first Saturday of the month, which means that we have our Mangalarti starting at 5 a.m.
If you have not been to any of the Mangalarti programs so far in downtown Toronto or in Vrindavan or Mayapur, this is a wonderful start for you to come to ISKCON Scarborough at 5 a.m. next Saturday. There will be a wonderful Mangalarti program followed by chanting. There will be a small pravachan followed by breakfast prasadam that will be served. So now, when he was there in our house, Prabhu had to wake up at 2 o'clock. I don't know, it's a normal routine every day. So Prabhu does that wonderful service for Maharaj. So please again, give a warm round of applause to Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu. So we can ask you to lead us through this one round of Hare Krishna Mahamantra chanting. Not too slow, not too fast, because some devotees are already hungry. But we'll go through one round of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So all of you have got beads. Hopefully all of you have got the beads.
So nice to be here with all the wonderful devotees in Scarborough. Sorry I'm late, I have to take a bus. And I didn't realize it would take so long. Better late than never, as they say.
Yeah.
So we start off Namo Om,
Namo
Vishnu Padaya,
Padaya,
Krishna Pasaya,
Krishna Pasaya,
Bhutale, Shrimate,
Srimate,
Bhakti Vedanta,
Bhaktivedanta,
Brahmin,
Brahmin,
Niti Namani, Namaste Saraswati,
Namaste Saraswati Devi,
Deve, Gauravani Pracharne,
Gauravani Pracharne,
Nirvishesha,
Nirvishesha,
Shunyavadi,
Shunyavadi,
Ashita,
Vachita,
Desatar,
Desatar,
Jai Shri Krishna
Jai
Chaitanya,
Krishna Chaitanya,
Prabhu Nityananda,
Prabhu Nityananda,
Shri Advaita,
Shri Advaita,
Gadadhara,
Gadadhara,
Shri Vasari,
Shri Vasari,
Gauravani,
Gauravani,
Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya,
Jai Krishna Chaitanya,
Prabhu Nityananda,
Prabhu Nityananda,
Shri Advaita,
Shri Advaita,
Gadadhara,
Gadadhara,
Shri Vasari,
Shri Vasari,
Gauravani,
Gauravani,
Jai Shri Krishna
Jai
Chaitanya,
Krishna Chaitanya,
Prabhu Nityananda,
Prabhu Nityananda,
Shri Advaita,
Shri Advaita,
Gadadhara,
Gadadhara,
Shri Vasari,
Shri Vasari,
Gauravani,
Gauravani,
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Sarvapurunyavanarajan
Krishna Baladoyamai, Gori Bara Jiva Jai, Supasada Anantalobai, Se Anamrata Pavo, Radha Krishna Gunigavo, Prema Dakushi Chetnitai, Jainimai Jainitai, Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Hare Krishna,
Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. One more time. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Radha Gopi Vallabha Prasad ki Jai. Gaura Premanande. Hare Hare. Give a big applause for Abdul.